So let's talk about how this war in Ukraine ends. Now, a funny side note, I was watching Fox News for a bit at the gym, and their headline was War on Ukraine. But then if I remember distinctly, when America was invading Iraq or Afghanistan, it was never war on Afghanistan or war on Iraq. It was war in Iraq. So nice, the little subtle. You can just tell people's angle right by from the tiny little bit of their spin here. But so here we have three options according to Political article. Das vidanya Vlad, meaning goodbye Vlad, and there could be a regime change. However, it doesn't seem very likely because to me, I think Putin's very isolated, meaning he's very concerned about his security. He's ultra paranoid, so it could be tough for just like a single assassin. Now, if all of the intelligence agencies or the people around him in the know want to off him, that's possible. But is it, as this article would say, last time Russians abruptly overthrew their leader was in 1917, and given the complete absence of organized opposition, there's zero guarantee that Putin's successor would have a different mindset. Meanwhile, it could be a mistake thinking that Russia's experience will give Beijing any second thoughts about Taiwan. As historian Neil Ferguson argued, China, which has a much bigger economy than Russia, may take comfort in the West's inability to wean itself off Russian fossil fuels, a NATO's refusal to directly risk its members' own security to help Ukraine. Well, if Germany does wean itself off Russian fuel in a few years, Russia could sell to India and China, but still, it could be at a cheaper cost. China could see that China's right now, even though it looks really strong, I think it's, as more and more manufacturing comes back to America, I think it's probably going to find itself in a precarious place. But as far as Putin goes, overthrowing him, it just, to me, it doesn't seem realistic now. I wish he would step down a long time ago, but now him being possibly tried for war crimes. A lot of people writing Putin off as like, oh, this is a huge loss for him. But unfortunately, his popularity is gaining in Russia because maybe just a temporarily rally around the flag, or this could be a very, like a cultural change to where people, at first it seems like it was Putin who was slighted against I'm pretty sure he doesn't weigh pros and cons of doing a certain thing, or it's not like a cost benefit calculation. I think he was just felt slighted that Russia is a great power and it's not being respected. Its demands for Ukraine and the surrounding countries, with the West arming Ukraine and doing all sorts of military drills and things like that. Basically, so he just thought that he would teach Ukraine a lesson, and now he's going to be feared. I don't know how much he's going to be more respected, and on top of that, the polling and just rallying around the flag, him being more popular, as maybe before he was just seen as like this greedy oligarch that was just kind of sucking off the natural resources and a bunch of corruption. But now people can kind of see that, oh, look how much sacrifice. Look, his yachts got towed away, or his fortunes around the world got seized. Look how much sacrifice of his personal wealth he did to promote Russian interests. So I could see that type of logic. I could see him possibly getting stronger. And if he can have any kind of military success, as far as maybe take half of Ukraine, possibly, just divide it on that one major river, then maybe countries like India and other countries would start looking to Russia. As far as, the West was like the unipolar world. The West was the was the top dog, and everything that America said went. But now there are challenges now, so that's his goal, I think. But and now this brings us to another topic here, the other option about making a deal. Quote, we're having to negotiate a settlement to this conflict that got Russian forces out of Ukraine, that protected Ukraine's sovereignty and territorial integrity going forward, that ensured the rebuilding of Ukraine, then sanctions could be rolled back. U.S. Undersecretary of State Veronica Nuland told the U.S.-backed Russian language channel Current Time TV on Wednesday. Personally, I don't think the U.S. wants to roll back any kind of sanctions on Russia. I mean, they want Russia weak. Russia has a bunch of nukes pointed at them, and I'm pretty sure a lot of hawks in the U.S. administration want Russia to be ground down and getting weaker. That's why Joe Biden hasn't really went out of his way. I mean, he's ramping up sanctions, condemning, but he didn't go out of his way try to moderate himself and go for a diplomatic negotiated settlement here. Him calling him a war criminal is just calculated that it's like burning the bridge, because they want the sanctions on Russia to go on. They want Russia weak. Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky has already expressed some openness to forswearing NATO membership for Ukraine. Putin might also be able to extract some territory, say walking away with Crimea and Donbass without further Ukrainian contestation in exchange for Russia withdrawal from the rest of the country. Yeah, but unfortunately here, the longer this war goes on, I mean, I'm still under the mindset that it's hard to know for sure, but let's say if Zelensky just like bounced as soon as Russia invaded and the government would just kind of just gave up and there wasn't like a full-on shooting war just like it was in Crimea. I mean, I think Ukraine wouldn't have been destroyed. Everything would have remained intact. Would Russia really want to annex all entire Crimea? Probably not. They'll just do like a regime change, install some Russian-friendly government, but over time, the government could be more neutral or de-escalate, and maybe prosperity could return to Ukraine. But now that they chose to hunker down and fight, I mean, while this is, I mean, though America's enjoying it, it's wrecking Russia and Ukraine, and they, American Raytheon and American military contractors, and can get their budget boosted and stuff like that. But and the Hawks are, they wanted to see this, but it's basically like both a lose-lose for both Ukraine and Russia. So reality check. Putin has broken almost every promise he's made over the past month, whether it's withdrawing from Kiev or allowing humanitarian escape routes from Mariupol. My own view is Putin plainly not to be trusted, Prime Minister Boris Johnson said Wednesday, as he questioned whether Macron's negotiations with Kremlin had much value. And here could be one of the worst situations here. No endgame. It could be just like a Syria in Europe. Maybe it's even possible that, I mean, both sides think they're going to cry uncle. They're playing chicken. I mean, I know when Russia first invaded, people were saying, oh, Russia's so shit that they're going to run out of missiles completely. Or run out of bombs, run out of everything. Well, that's not the case. I mean, they might be maybe low on missiles and using them sparingly, but I'm sure they got plenty of just like dumb mortar rounds and plenty of dumb bombs and plenty of dumb bullets to keep this thing going for years and years. Especially if they can get the oil, like they're supplying their supply chain, their oil piped into, to the depots where they could refuel their tanks. And now maybe it's the Russian military thinks that the more it cuts off certain cities, the more bombs certain depots, that maybe the more it encircles certain territories, that the Ukrainian army are going to be starting running out of bullets and ammo and just the will to fight, or just or actually they're super low on like any kind of tanks or Humvees. Or I see reports that Ukrainian military is just riding around regular cars because they're out of Humvees or whatnot. So NATO is staying out in order to avoid a third world war. But a drawn-out war has a global consequences. Ukrainian refugees flooding into the West won't be able to go home, and they won't be the only new arrivals. Peoples from the Middle East, Africa, and Central Asia, impaired by crashing Russian economy and halted food exports, would renew migration as a wedge issue in Western democracies. That's a possibility, but if a ton of people are coming into Europe, I mean, just by the body count, that would push up their economy because more and more people working mathematically. But could it turn into Syria, where the Russia just, I mean, maybe thinks completely all diplomatic channels or are lost, to where it would just start carpet bombing and just completely take the gloves off? That's a possibility. I mean, this conflict has probably got months and months to go, unfortunately.